courtroom in New York. In color, this is the CBS Evening News with Harry Reasoner substituting for Walter Cronkite. And Eric Severide in Washington, Roger Mudd on Capitol Hill, David Shoemaker in Washington, Bill McLaughlin at the Jordan River, Terry Drinkwater at Travis Air Force Base, California, and Robert Pierpoint in Anaheim, California.
Good evening. The new Congress convened today amid appropriate pomp and ceremony, but much of the drama of opening day took place behind closed doors as Senate Democrats and Republicans met to choose their leaders for the next 2 years. Roger Mudd has the story.
The 91st Congress formally opened today in a welter of party caucuses as both Democrats and Republicans tried to ride with the tide of political change. The Senate's Democrats expelled Russell Long of Louisiana from its leadership and elected the last of the Kennedys, Senator Edward Kennedy, Assistant Majority Leader. The vote, 31-26. And the Republicans picked the liberal Hugh Scott of Pennsylvania as their new whip. Scott defeated the conservative Roman Ruska of Nebraska, 23-20. But the Democratic caucus was where the action was. Russell Long called the fight fair and square, but made little secret of his belief Kennedy was only pointing for 1972.
When some persons persuaded Senator Kennedy to get in the race, he had the support of a nationwide organization which had been organized to help support his brother for President of the United States. And with all due deference, I had some help myself. As one who ran the race with him, I would like to express the judgment, and perhaps it's saying a little bit too much for both of us, but I don't think I could have been defeated by anybody else in the United States Senate. And my guess is that I could have taken any other opponent by about a 2-to-1 margin. But this happened to be a race where it was a nationwide proposition. And while I had Senator Kennedy outgunned in the United States Senate, he had me outgunned in the United States. And having had the experience that Lyndon Johnson experienced in 1960, that Richard Nixon experienced in that same year, and a number of other people have had in taking on a Kennedy, I can say it's a very interesting experience. I would suggest that Mr. Nixon should be very careful and watch himself for the future, because in all probability he had a very able opponent ready for him.
When Kennedy emerged from the caucus, the first question he got was whether he was trying to build a base of power for the presidency.
Well, I just say that I think the fact of my candidacy for the assistant leader shows, hopefully, my commitment to Senate business. And this is a time-consuming responsibility, and I look forward to that work. I don't think it has really any implications beyond that.
Is it true that Senator McCarthy said he couldn't support you because you represented the form of reform and not the substance?
Well, as I say, I've had a chance to visit with Senator McCarthy. I do think that he's best able to express his vote on these questions. We're extremely fortunate to have, as I said before, the broad-based support around the country.
In supporting Russell Long, McCarthy joined with 14 Southerners in what was called a mixed bag of conservatives and Senate establishmentarians. It was probably the most surprising vote of all, considering Long's defense of the Vietnam War, Mayor Daley, and the political status quo. McCarthy himself offered no public explanation of his vote, but most of his colleagues believe his personal pique with the Kennedys was responsible. Last night, McCarthy told Kennedy he would not support him because the younger members might lose interest in reforming the party if he were elected whip, to which a bitter Kennedy aide replied, McCarthy was saying we need Hitler in Germany so we can win the big fight against fascism elsewhere. Roger Mudd, CBS News, Washington.
For Harlem Representative-elect Adam Clayton Powell, opening day in the House was a return to old haunts and a fight to take his seat. David Shoemaker reports.
On the House side of the Capitol, at least, nothing seemed much changed today. John McCormick was still the Speaker, Gerald Ford still the leader of the Republican minority. And there was Adam Clayton Powell, still flamboyant, still bowing and waving to friends, still smoking that thin cigar, and still trying to get his seat. It seemed fitting somehow that the question of what to do about or to Powell should tie the House in knots on its first day. After the opening ceremony, the lights went out and the real drama began. Again and again, the congressman voted against Powell, all the while inching closer to a compromise which would seat him but punish him. The number of combinations of fines and penalties discussed and discarded with or without a vote is past a half dozen, with the House now moving sort of sideways toward seating Powell but fining him $25,000. That could yet change, although Powell reportedly has passed the word he could accept such a decision. Right at the beginning, the debate became sidetracked when the man leading the fight for Powell, Emanuel Seller of New York, quoted liberally from the Bible about casting stones and judging knots, and then added, somewhat uncharitably in the view of some, that perhaps Powell should not be criticized when so many others have, quote, dear ones on the payroll. Needless to say, that almost prompted a parade of congressmen demanding that Seller retract his remarks. The whole situation further complicated by a series of parliamentary rulings, which even Speaker McCormick admits are based on rather vague precedent. As a result, the entire House is now confused or tired or angry, all except Powell, that is, who apparently has finally achieved a settlement, $25,000 he can afford. David Shoemaker, CBS News, Washington.
President Johnson was also back in Washington today following a post-Christmas stay at his Texas ranch. During his final days in office, the president will work on his State of the Union message and other reports he will present to Congress before Inauguration Day.
Listen while it came out of Richmond, Virginia one day and spread clear across the land. Oh yeah, it spread to California and now it's famous in old Chicagoland. And in New York town, it's the biggest brand around and getting bigger from the lakes to the Rio Grande. The big flavored Marlboro brand. Now anywhere is Marlboro country, everywhere in the USA. From Philadelphia to San Francisco Bay, getting bigger all over this great big land. The big flavored Marlboro brand.
Come to Marlboro country.
Dean Rusk today held what may have been his final formal news conference as Secretary of State, and he devoted a good part of it to the increasing level of violence in the Middle East.
The present prospects are serious and require the immediate and prudent attention of all leaders on both sides. There is little question but that a breakdown of the present tenuous arrangements would be catastrophic for all the peoples of the area. I urge all concerned, in and outside of the area, to do everything possible to reverse the cycle of violence and replace it with a new impetus to help bring about both the climate and the reality of peace. We call upon the Arab governments to recognize that they must do their utmost to restrain terrorist activity. We call upon Israel to recognize that a policy of excessive retaliation will not produce the peace that Israel surely desires.
Rusk denied reports that Russia has proposed an initiative by the Big Four powers to settle the Middle East crisis. He said the major powers could consult on the problem, but only as an aid to the United Nations peacemaking efforts. On 3 occasions this week, Israeli aircraft attacked Jordanian territory. Officials in Tel Aviv said the objective was to destroy Arab guerrilla positions. Tonight, we have a film report from CBS News correspondent Bill McLaughlin on the major commando organization opposing the Israelis.
This is the River Jordan. Just a few feet away, Israeli soldiers are waiting for the enemy. Not regular Arab soldiers, but a new and dramatically important force in the Middle East. They call themselves Fedayeen, men of sacrifice. The Israelis call them terrorists. They're also known as the Arab Commandos.
The Arab Commandos began as amateurs, but the Israelis now consider them professionals. The largest and most successful commando organization is Al-Fatah, the Palestine Liberation Movement. Its main aim is the destruction of Israel and the creation in its place of a Palestine Arab state.
What do you hope to accomplish by being a guerrilla, a Fedayeen?
Yes, my hope is only to liberate my country and to return our people to its lands, homes, and to live in happiness as other people of other countries.
When you say liberate my country, what do you mean?
To liberate Palestine.
You mean
from the world Zionism.
This is a secret Fatah base camp in a banana plantation near the River Jordan. The commandos, most of them in their early 20s, are well dressed and well armed. Their principal weapon is the Soviet-made Kalashnikov, considered by experts to be one of the best light machine guns in the world. Fatah is not only a military organization. It recently launched an ambitious social welfare division to mobilize support throughout the Arab world. Abu Telet died in action 5 months ago. Every month, Abir, a Fatah social worker whose brother is the ambassador of Kuwait to the United States, visits his mother to deliver a pension check and listen to her problems. Fatah also pays her medical bills.
The amount of money depends on the size of the family, or?
Yes, we see before we visit and we see how many are the family and how much they need. We give him what they want.
At the refugee camps, Fatah has established its own health clinics, complete with nurse, doctor, and commando guards. The refugees would rather receive help from Fatah than the United Nations. The refugees feel that it is not charity if the help comes from their own people.
And what do you want to do when you get older?
ايش بدك تعمل عندما تصير كبير؟
أحب أن أكون فدائيا وأجاهد حتى أسترد وطني المغتصب من الصهاينة.
I like to be commando to struggle for liberation my country from Zionism.
At the top of Fatah is a quiet 40-ish man who has become a legend throughout the Arab world. Yasser Arafat. His men call him Abu Ammar.
Our revolution will continue till we have our rights, till we return back to our homes, our fields, our countries. These homes and countries and fields, we had been kicked out from it 20 years ago. But we are insisting to return back.
And you think someday you will?
Definite. And for this we are fighting. We are not fighting because we like fighting. We are fighting because we know that it is the only way to return back to our homes.
Al-Fatah has given its word. The Arab commandos will continue to cross this river, and the raids will grow in size and importance. Anyone optimistic about peace in the Middle East should remember that the Arab commandos have at least been very precise about their goal. They will be satisfied with nothing less than the destruction of Israel, and the Israelis will be satisfied with nothing less than the destruction of the commandos.
Across the river is the Promised Land. Trouble is, it's been promised to one people too many. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News on the River Jordan.
The defense minister of Lebanon said today that his government plans conscription as part of its new military preparations. He told reporters that if Israel follows up its raid on Beirut airport with new attacks, Lebanon will fight back with everything at its disposal, even sticks. More than 140 persons who left New York last night aboard an Eastern Airlines jet for Miami finally arrived at their destination today after dropping off a hijacker, his wife, and baby in Cuba. The hijacker, armed with a pistol, forced the pilot to change course after threatening to kill another child on board, a 2-year-old boy, who was released unharmed when the plane reached Havana. The pilot told Cuban officials that 14 of the passengers were ill, and they were allowed to return with the crew, contrary to the usual practice, when the jetliner was flown back to Miami. The remaining passengers were brought back on 2 other planes.
Green toothpaste announces a major scientific discovery. Brushing. Brushing does a lot more for your teeth than not brushing. To get you to brush, Gleam makes what we believe is the best tasting toothpaste in America.
Morning. Not speaking again.
Her wash. Terrific.
So bright. Love you, Boulder Bold.
Mine's clean. Ketchup stain's gone. How come hers looks better?
Takes more than cleaning power to get clothes bright. New Boulder Bold has more. Loads of brighteners.
A new bold? Boulder. Look how bright. I hadn't noticed.
New Boulder Bold goes beyond cleaning and stain removal. Gets clothes bright.
An American Special Forces officer who spent most of his Vietnam duty as a prisoner of the Viet Cong arrived at Travis Air Force Base in California today en route home. A story from Terry Drinkwater.
For 5 years, Major James Rowe was a prisoner of the Viet Cong. He made an incredible escape just last week. And today, Rowe, who is 30 and a Green Beret, was on American soil for the first time since 1963. Also today, for the first time, he talked about life in his POW camp.
The POW camps are constructed, you have a roof, you have no walls on a hooch. It's what they call, or what we call a hooch. It's a small house built of trees. Hooch? This is a term that's used. They cut down trees. You're in the middle of a forest, and they'll cut down trees as many as they need. The U-Min is loaded with trees, and for a POW, you have a cage. It's exactly what it is. It's a small cage with a roof on it. You sometimes question whether or not it's built for an animal or for a human, but the mental attitude, the psychological aspect of the entire thing is what determines whether or not you live or die. The physically you can survive if your mind will allow you to do so. Every meal is a meal of rice. This is the mainstay of the diet. You cook your rice and then prepare whatever food you have caught for yourself or has been provided.
Major, you spent 5 years in captivity. Did you ever think that you'd get away, that you'd get home?
Yes.
You really did?
I knew. One way or another, I was going to get out.
Could you elaborate somewhat on how you did escape from prison?
We had moved from a prison camp. We were in a process of evading operations which were in our area. It was a fluid situation. I separated myself from the Viet Cong at one point, hailed a flag down an American chopper with my mosquito net. As soon as the chopper landed, I was aboard and yelling at the pilot to go. And I never had any concept of just how valuable freedom was until I lost it. And I never realized how good it would feel to be free until I regained it. And at that point, when I got in the chopper, I knew I was back with my people again. It was like being alive.
Rose said he would like another Vietnam tour after a leave at home in McAllen, Texas. Secretary of State Rusk at his news conference today also talked about Vietnam, and he said the United States is doing everything possible to end the procedural wrangling in Paris so that substantive peace talks can begin before President-elect Nixon takes office. In Paris today, North Vietnam and the Viet Cong indicated they would dispense with other procedural points if the Allies would agree to a round table for expanded negotiations. But they rejected 6 different Allied proposals for a divided round table. These would indicate that the conference was two-sided rather than four-sided, as sought by the communists. In Vietnam, B-52 bombers have carried out their heaviest raids in 3 weeks, concentrating on suspected enemy positions north and south of Saigon. The U.S. command said that one of the raids in the Mekong Delta killed 35 Viet Cong, destroyed more than 350 Viet Cong bunkers and other fortified structures, and set off a series of secondary explosions.
Here's an important word from Bayer in case the flu epidemic hits your home. When the flu strikes, doctors and public health officials urge you to follow these 3 steps. Rest in bed, drink plenty of fluids, and take aspirin to reduce the fever and relieve the aches. So get Bayer aspirin now. Bayer is 100% aspirin, the world's best aspirin. And aspirin is what doctors and public health officials recommend. For the pains and fever of a cold or flu, Bayer works wonders.
When you have acid indigestion, every second counts. So count on instant-acting Phillips tablets. Phillips tablets go to work in seconds. With one of the fastest stomach settlers ever discovered, each small Phillips tablet neutralizes more excess stomach acid than the leading antacid tablet that comes in a roll. So for fast relief from acid-upset stomach, when every second counts, count on instant-acting Phillips tablets.
President-elect Nixon is on his way back to New York tonight following 12 days of sun and relaxation in Florida and California. Last night, Mr. Nixon was in Anaheim, California, where he was the guest of honor for an unusual public tribute. Robert Pierpoint reports.
Remember the old television program, This Is Your Life? The one where the honored guest relived his past through old friends and acquaintances? The program with all the laughter and the tears and the sentimentality? Well, the people of Anaheim are putting on that program here tonight for Richard Nixon. Art Linkletter is the master of ceremonies.
Now for a very brief meeting with one of his classmates in the first grade, Mrs. Yonika Iwatsuru. Yonika Iwatsuru, hello. This is your first grade buddy. And his wife, Mrs. Nixon. Has he changed much? Look at him.
Oh, he still has that same nose.
Chief Newman, longtime coach at Whittier College, gave the president-elect a varsity letter because he did not earn one in 3 years of trying.
These are men who were played during those same 3 years that Dick Nixon. These are the fellows who pushed him, pummeled him, kicked him, knocked him down, rubbed his nose. We want to get the FBI is getting their names and addresses as they come up. Say, look at them. They're in pretty good shape considering everything. They are carrying with them, ladies and gentlemen, a present for Richard Nixon. This is the actual bench he sat on for 3 years. That's the bench. Won't you sit on it? Chief, where's the chief? And that's where he sat for 3 years.
The people of Orange County, the strong fortress of republicanism in this state, paying their respects to Richard Milhouse Nixon, California's first president. Robert Pierpoint, CBS News, Anaheim, California.
The House, after a half a day of wrangling over the status of Adam Clayton Powell, has now compromised tonight and voted that he be seated at the bottom of the seniority list and fined $25,000. Powell is to pay the fine at the rate of $1,150 a month. He'll have until January 15th to decide whether to accept the decision. A Saturn V rocket, complete with the Apollo 9 spacecraft, was moved from its assembly building to a launch pad near Cape Kennedy today. The 7-hour trip began just after dawn, with the tank-like transporter moving slowly over the 3.5-mile route. The Apollo 9 mission is set to begin February 28th to put 3 astronauts into Earth orbit for 10 days, where they'll make the first tests of the bug-like lunar landing craft designed to put men on the moon later this year. Cigarette smoking in the United States went down slightly last year for the first time since 1964. The Agriculture Department says smoking declined by more than 1 billion cigarettes from the year before, although total domestic consumption remained well above 500 billion cigarettes. The report said the decline was at least in part because of increased publicity about smoking and health. Prices closed generally higher today on the New York Stock Exchange. Volume was 12,750,000 shares. The exchange index gained 1 cent.
You're pinching.
Breathe in. This zipper sure doesn't close like it used to.
Any suggestions?
Of course, the Playtex Living Long Line Bra. The stretch panels smooth out midriff bulge comfortably. Even after 50 machine washings, the Playtex Long Line Bra stretches this way. That way, still stretches like new. Your dresses fit better, look better with the Playtex Living Long Line Bra. Now, $1 off. My girdle is killing me.
she needs the new 18-hour girdle by Playtex. It's made from a remarkable new fabric Playtex just invented. A delicate webbing with the strength to hold you firm all day. The first firm control girdle that's comfortable for hours. The new 18-hour girdle by Playtex.
When old political leaders are defeated and new men with new ideas take over, as happened today in the Senate, change is inevitable. In Washington, Eric Severide takes a look at what today's Senate action means.
Both political parties in the United States Senate moved a degree or two away from traditional conservatism and toward the liberal moderate position today. In another sense, these moves represent an intensifying of the focus on big city problems, the critical domestic problems. Republican Senator Scott of Pennsylvania became minority whip instead of the conservative Husk of Nebraska, and Democratic Senator Kennedy of Massachusetts dislodged Long of Louisiana as majority whip. The latter shift reflects not only Kennedy's hard-earned standing with his Senate colleagues, but the real base of Democratic Party national strength, which is in the urban areas of North and East. In the political life of this capital, there's only one North Pole, the presidency, even in the Congress, even when the next presidential election is years away. The compass is tapped, the needle spins, and comes to rest pointing at that magnetic pole. So what interests observers here, of course, is the meaning of the Kennedy move and Senator Muskie's failure to move in terms of 1972. As Majority Whip, Edward Kennedy will be even more in the public eye and ear than he is at present. But the job will confine him to Washington more than he is presently confined, and a hazard may lie ahead. If Majority Leader Mansfield does not return to the Senate 2 years from now, and assuming it remains in Democratic hands, Kennedy would presumably take over. To be Senate Majority Leader with the White House in the opposing party's hands is to be in a very powerful and very ticklish position. Such a man has to be continually consulted by the President where his major legislation is concerned. This is power second only to that of the presidency. And the prospect of a Nixon-Kennedy balance, at times cooperative, at times combative, is a dramatic prospect indeed, with many pitfalls ahead for both men. There seems to be general acceptance here of the idea that either Kennedy or Muskie will be the next Democratic presidential nominee. Kennedy seems to have chosen his road. For Muskie, if he is truly serious about it, the other road remains open. Constant travel, constant consultation with and labors for party groups from precinct to state levels. The long, plodding road successfully traveled by Humphrey, by Goldwater, by Richard Nixon. The tortoise versus the hare, with all bets now very premature. Harry?
That's the news. This is Harry Reasoner for Walter Cronkite, who returns on Monday. Good night.
We'll try any trick to find out how we do it.
Hey, man, it's competition. That's who we work for, you ding-dong.
It's the Dodge Coronet White Hat Special. Special features, special low price.
Man, that's a big kick.
Why, the Bynum roof alone will sweep you right off your feet. Over here, a remote control mirror.
Got a match? Huh? Oh, sure.
What? You get white sidewalls, special wheel covers, bumper guards, front and rear.
Hey, quiet here.
Yeah, too quiet.
Dodge Coronet. So many savings, we can't cover everything. Coronet White Hat Special. See it at your Dodge dealers.
This is CBS.